Well, hi everyone, welcome back. Doug here.
And it's your girl, Allie.
Your girl. That's a girl with a U, right?
Yes.
Or is
it's
it
your girl.
several U's?
And several R's.
Today we're going to talk about Dunkirk. So Dunkirk is the latest film by Christopher Nolan, the auteur that everyone wants to be right now. What made you want to see Dunkirk so bad? Because you really wanted to see it.
I unfortunately fall into the category of liking war movies.
Why is that unfortunate?
Because it's based on real tragedy, a lot of people died, and then it's my source of entertainment.
Well, a proper war movie should do more than just entertain you. War movies, if done right, should be there to make you think.
You can do so much by reading about history and learning about it, but also to capture the emotion. You can read numerous articles and non-fiction novels about how young boys went off to war, but you tend to divorce yourself away from the emotional attachment, and I guess movies can give that back to you.
It's true. A well-executed movie can be an extremely absorbing experience. Can really put you, almost like no other form of entertainment, into the emotions and heart of a conflict. That is the power of the medium when done well.
I did enjoy it, and I really respect it. I'm very glad there's not a lot of dialogue. It's war, you don't have a lot of room for conversation. This isn't something that, hey, I'm gonna tell y'all a story. This is about the horrors of trying to survive war. But the reason why I'm very grateful that there isn't a lot of dialogue is because I couldn't understand them because they're so British.
Well, when I was in film school, one thing they said is that because it's a visual medium, if you're telling your story well, you can turn off all the dialogue and just understand what's going on based on the visuals.
Mr. Film School here.
Wanna fight? I don't know how long it takes before there's any dialogue in this film. I can't think of it. It's a good chunk of the film, which is pretty brave for something that's released to a mainstream market.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first line is when the soldier who like the rest of his unit, I don't know if it's a unit, but like the other soldiers are killed after they're wandering in the city, and then he goes through the fence. The first line he says is, "I'm British, I'm British."
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And even then, the dialogue is very sparse. This is the kind of movie where it's not super important that you hear what's going on, and I think that was Nolan's intention, was to just show what was going on. It makes for a very grim, gritty, real experience, I think, when you're in the theater.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't feel like I missed anything, despite I definitely did miss lines because I just couldn't understand them. I think the biggest chunks that I missed were the three planes. It was a combination of the British accent and the There you go.
Yeah.
They made up for it with Tom Hardy.
She likes Mr. Hardy.
You got his lips.
There's a lot of good actors, and strangely enough, a member of One Direction.
He looked familiar. I didn't realize it was actually him until the end credits.
Truthfully, I know very, very little by One Direction. I don't even know which British brunette he was. Yeah, one of the things I have sort of mixed feelings about is the narrative style, where it sort of decided to go in a very unconventional route. The film almost lacks a first act. There's no stage of character development, getting to know people, setting the stakes. You're just kind of dropped right into it. And I feel like that's a very intentional choice. You see some soldiers, and then before you know it, people are getting gunned down, and you're right in the action. And so it's like a film of mostly the second act.
Yeah.
The first act is probably just a couple shots.
I believe it could be even that intro, fight, arrives to the beach.
If there's a first act, it's that. And my understanding is that Christopher Nolan wanted to forego all the character development and basically have the characters be more or less blank slates for the audience to kind of project themselves into, and to kind of be in the heat of it. In some ways I really admire that, but in some ways I really miss the idea of having well-developed characters to feel for. It's like a pro and con, because I feel like he succeeded in his objective. I see why he did it and can kind of appreciate that he did it, but I kind of miss regular storytelling conventions because of what they actually normally do to evoke emotion.
You put into words what I was thinking, but didn't realize this was actually what was bothering me. I do say that this is a good movie. I don't know if I could watch it again because war movies are emotionally exhausting, and I can only watch so much of it, such as I can't watch Lone Survivor again.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, really? Okay.
That was the Mark Wahlberg?
That was one. Also, I can't see Hacksaw Ridge again. But you're right. There was no sentimental attachment to these characters where I felt like my breath was taken away when tragedy would hit. However, I just like you, I do find some strengths in it or some reason why they can't be dynamic characters, and that's because war has already changed them. The only character that is not static is Cillian Murphy's character. And that's, even by then, that's only by little. We already see these are shell-shocked and traumatized soldiers. There's not much to develop them, especially with on the beach is 1 week. The boats is 1 day, and then the airplanes were 1 hour. That doesn't give much time for them to develop. I guess the only people who could be developed were the people on the beach, but they were already changed by war, and we didn't have to see that part.
So we're both kind of torn on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I guess it's good that it was done this way, because there are a lot of movies that have kind of gone the other route. We've seen that already elsewhere, so it's nice that this was kind of a unique way of telling the story. Can't fault it for that.
No, it's because it's not about one person, it's about everybody who suffered from that.
What the movie's great at is capturing the scope of the event, rather than like the people in it.
Exactly.
There's a lot of technical aspects of the movie where that really soar. I feel like it was shot like gorgeously, especially the sequences with the planes. Visually, I thought that stuff was like beautiful. It's good that the cinematography is so strong because it really helps capture like the scope of the situation. All right. Well, anything that bothered you about the film?
Nothing too much, but it goes back to what we pointed out earlier, is that because this is such a wide scope in storytelling, you don't get to be attached to one character, and so that limits the possibility of an emotional impact. If someone dies, kind of like, oh, there goes one, bye.
The death in the film is sort of like the emotional impact again is from the grandness of it, of like the horror of the whole situation, where individual people, I very rarely felt anything too much.
I think that's the way to describe this movie, is bleak.
It's very grim. It's very sad. One thing that I think this lacks that a lot of other war movies have is like a sense of camaraderie, where like usually there's like a sense of soldiers working together. It was very individualistic, like they were just scrambling to survive and to get out themselves. And I could see that sort of being an intentional choice, but it does leave you a little bit more emotionally exhausted than usual, because it's sort of like it's every man for themselves.
They're fighting each other. It's like, you can't go in there, I'm gonna go on there, I'm gonna survive.
Where other big war movies like Saving Private Ryan, war series like Band of Brothers, there's a bit of hope in camaraderie that comes out of things like that, where who you're with help make the journey a little easier, where that wasn't present in this movie. It does leave a bit of a stain.
Definitely a different situation, because this isn't about, like, it's not a rescue mission to save someone else. This is, we're gonna die here and I will choose to save myself rather than save you, kind of thing. Right in the beginning of the film, soldiers are being shot, and then it's just the lead character on his own. He doesn't even flinch.
That's right, he doesn't look back. They're
just being shot one by one, and that right there, it sets the tone for how everyone's going to be. And they've always been like that. You can't hesitate. If you stop, you're dead too.
If he looked back, he probably would have been shot.
Oh, for sure.
It's hard to argue with the logic. If someone survives, then is that better than dying together? I don't know. Ultimately, at the end of the day, would you recommend people see Dunkirk?
Yes, at least once. It's good storytelling. It's definitely a perspective in war movies that you don't usually see. It's not focused on one character. It's about everyone and fighting to survive and what it takes to survive this emotionally, mentally, and physically.
Yeah, I think it's worth seeing. It's not for everybody because it's a very unorthodox in the way it tells the story. But I do think that it's worth checking out for Christopher Nolan fans, for people who like war movies, people who want to see something on a grand scale that's a little bit different than what they might see normally. Thanks for joining me again.
Suck it, Paul. It's my third time. I'm one up you.
Yeah, it's true, actually. So please leave a comment if you saw Dunkirk and want to share any thoughts on it yourself.
And subscribe for notifications. Press the little dingy, the bell thing. I don't know.
And give us a thumbs up if you agree. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more reviews.